Watching the agenda, well, earlier on, Advocate Anton Katz, representing the French arms company Thales, has been challenging the legality of the decision by former National Director of Public Prosecution Shaun to reinstate fraud, racketeering and money laundering charges against the company. Well, for more on this, we are now joined by SABC reporter Ayanda Mhlongo. She has been covering the story for us from the Pietermaritzburg High Court in KZN. Very good morning to you, Ayanda. Essentially, what were the main arguments that we saw coming in from today's proceedings?
Good morning to you, Shante. Good morning to our viewers. Well, as we said this morning, Shante, that we were expecting that when Advocate Anton Katz took to make his presentations here at the Pietermaritzburg High Court this morning, that he was going to deal firstly with the matter of the decision that was taken by the NPA to reinstate the charges against the company that he is representing, the French arms company Thales. The fact that earlier on, in previous appearances of both Mr. Zuma and Thales, they had made indication that they felt that when the decision was taken for the charges to be reinstated, that the NPA head at the time, Mr. Shaun had only made the decision regarding Mr. Zuma, and nothing had been mentioned of Thales. And we read, as we said, that was going to be the first point that he had said they were going to argue today. Of course, the other was going to be on the delays in this matter. As you know, that this is a case now that has run for about 15 years. But just to go more into and get a better analysis of some of the points that Advocate Katz made this morning, I'm once again joined by our legal expert, Advocate Mbonani. Advocate Mbonani, thanks very much. We've been following the court proceedings and following the arguments that have been put forth by Advocate Katz this morning. We did earlier on know that he was going to firstly speak about that decision or wanting the court to review the decision that was made by the NPA to reinstate the charges. But we also saw a lot of a back and forth between him and the three judges. A lot of questions, and at some point even hearing the judges saying that he was not responding to their questions. Take us through this first session.
Yeah, thank you, Ayanda. Well, when counsel for the second applicant in this matter started off, he did say that he will first deal with the decision of the head of the NPA, Shaun at the time, to reinstate, and then he will move on to this application, the substance of it. So when he delved into the first, which is what he's been doing at this point, the reinstatement of the charges, he said that when Abrahams made the decision, essentially he was not empowered to do so, because as a decision maker, he has to make considerations, he has to consider all the things that he listed, but his decision must be rational and he must be empowered to do so. And when they requested reasons for the decision, he referred to section 179 of the Constitution, 179(2), and that in the arguments, or in the heads of arguments now, where they are seeing for the first time that the decision was made in terms of section 22(1) of the National Prosecuting Authority Act, and he is arguing that even then that gives the national head authority and not the actual power, which is arguing that it is in terms of section 22(9). So the judges are going back and forth, the judges and counsel are going back and forth on whether or not his argument is that the head of the NPA did not have authority, and what that could mean in this application, and how it makes the decision irrational. And they also went on to speak on the ruling of the SCA, and his was to say that it was the Mshed decision to withdraw, and we saw a lot of back and forth about that, and his submissions to that were that which is what is being argued right now. When the national head made a decision, it seems as though the company he represents is just been taken along with the Zuma, and that when there was a withdrawal, they were taken along with Zuma, and that when there was a reinstatement, there was no consideration at all of the accused at this that he represents, except as an add-on to Zuma.
And that's where, at the point, we heard him say that they're independent of each other, Zuma being independent to Thales and vice versa. But we saw the judges then saying to him, explain what you mean when you say independent of each other, meaning that, was it a valid point for him to have made?
Well, I can't exactly give judgments on that, but what he was essentially saying is that at the beginning of this matter, first they joined these matters. There was a decision to join these matters, and when there was a withdrawal, both were withdrawn. What the judges are saying is that, are you saying that there should not have been a withdrawal on the Thales charges? Was it wrong? Was it wrong to withdraw it at that time? And are you saying that the reinstatement should have been treated differently? Because if you're saying the reinstatement should not have been done at the same time for two co-accused, then you should be also arguing that the withdrawal of the charges should not have been at the same time for the co-accused. So
a little back and forth. Yeah. There was another point that mentioned, and you'll explain to us, obviously, with more legal understanding and background. There was a point where Advocate Katz spoke about the former head of the NPA, Mr. Abrahams, to have conducted himself in person. And the judges, one of the judges, if I remember clearly, saying that sounds a bit absurd, meaning should, in his view, was he arguing that Mr. Abrahams should have been present in court?
Well, that was the back and forth about the provisions of the older Attorney General Act and the new NPA Act, and the back and forth about Section 22.1 and Section 22.9. Section 22.1 gives the head of the NPA the authority to make decisions on whether to prosecute, stop, or reinstate. And then Section 22.9, as I understand it, gives anyone who has been given the powers in writing by the national head. So the back and forth there was, is counsel submitting to the court that if he makes the decision to reinstate charges, he should then conduct the proceedings himself, if he's arguing in 22.9. But it's a lot of back and forth, basically on the interpretation of Section 22. And his argument is that Section 22.1, which is what the state is going to say empowered the head of the national authority, prosecuting authority, it cannot hold as an argument, because it's Section 22.9 that gives the power. So it's a matter of interpretation, and it's one that the courts will have to make a determination on. But that's what the back and forth was about.
All right. So we've seen him go through his argument with regard to the reviewing of the decision, and the second point that he was going to make will now possibly, as we move after the tea break, will be into the delays. We expect him to now make arguments with regard to the delays in this matter.
Well, yes, we can expect that, but I think first he will still have to address what the justices asked him to do. Speak about the indictments, because they asked him to look at that while the matter stands down, so that he can address some of the points where they feel that he has not answered his questions, and then he will move on to the second leg of what he said he'll be taking the court through. We can expect that it's going to be similar to the submissions made yesterday by counsel for the first applicant in the matter, but that is something we have to see play out. But we can expect that they will be similar, because the facts are more or less the same.
All right,
yes.
Advocate Mhlongo, thank you for your time. And she was saying that it could be yet another long day today, as there's still a long way to go, it seems, as Advocate Anton Katz makes his representations for the permanent stay of prosecution that his clients have applied to here at the Pietermaritzburg court as well. So we're on a tea break, which should be about 15 minutes, and court will resume after that. But just to look at, obviously we've been focusing a lot on what has been happening inside court, but also not forgetting what has been happening outside. Heavy police presence outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court, as always is the case whenever the former president is appearing. And today, in terms of the support, not a lot of people that have come out here. In fact, I just see a handful of supporters that are outside the court. And yesterday we saw a bigger group that had gathered, certainly not as big as the previous numbers of supporters that had come out. And we are told that there were some financial issues and logistical issues in getting people out here today. Of course, as we know that this matter is going to continue for the rest of the week. And yesterday, when the ANC leaders were addressing the supporters, they did say that the important days were yesterday as well as Thursday and Friday. So today it's not likely that a lot of people are going to come out. Of course, the weather as well is not it's quite chilly this morning, so that might also disrupt in terms of people who may have wanted to come out and show their support to the former president. So at this point, we don't know, depending on the numbers, whether or not either at lunch break or when the court proceedings are done for the day, whether or not he will go and address the supporters that are gathered out here. But we will later on, Chante, just catch up with the ANC leaders in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, who have also been attending these court proceedings in support of the former president, to speak about the African National Congress. There was also some issues that yesterday with regards to the platform. You would know that the ANC had said that they were concerned that there were other parties that were used this platform, like the BLF, for example. So we'll catch up with the ANC as well to speak around that, and why this time around far less leaders of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal. Previously, the chairperson of the ANC, Sihle Zegalala, the secretary of the ANC in KZN, Mtumseni Ntuli, would all be part of, would be here in court to support. So we'll get from the ANC why this time they have not are not part of the support for the former president. But I said we are out here today, and we will be giving you updates from them as well.